Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Deeply Rooted podcast by Planting Roots. I'm Erin.
And I'm Liz.
And on this podcast, we have honest conversations to help foster a strong, faith-filled community where military women and wives find encouragement, strength, and direction in embracing God's purpose. Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm wearing my Christmas sweater today and my Christmas pajamas. You can't see, but I have pajama pants on, so, you know. But Merry Christmas from all of us here at Planting Roots. We're excited that you're listening to this podcast and joining us, and we'll be taking a break to just celebrate the holidays ourselves and to reset for the new year, which is everything we're going to be talking about today. So Liz, you want to kind of tell us how your year has been and what you're gearing up for in 2025?
Yeah, when I look back at this year, I feel like a lot happened, but also not a lot happened. But I feel like I grew in my faith so much this year, and part of that is doing ministry, doing this podcast, but also it's just the year that I've fallen in love with reading the Bible. It's the first year that I've read the whole Bible. I've tried it before, and I have always failed, but this year I was actually able to make it way through the whole Bible, and I think it was because Erin and I had a really good plan, which we've talked about on here a lot, but it was a Bible recap plan by Tara Lee Cobble, and she has a podcast, so like a daily recap podcast. She has like a written devotional, which is what I use because I like to read. And then she also has like a YouVersion Bible app plan. So there's so many different options with that resource, and it's just been super motivating, and it helps me understand like what I'm reading. So that's been like so great, because before sometimes I get really confused in the Old Testament, but now I feel like I have a greater understanding of how scripture fits together as a whole, and I feel more comfortable like talking about different passages because I've read the whole Bible. So this year's been marked by that, and I think reading the Bible has truly changed my life so much. It's changed my relationship with Jesus. It's changed the way I see God. So I think it's been so important. So if you've never read the whole Bible, I definitely recommend this plan because it's opened my eyes to so much, and I feel like I've gotten to learn so much about God, and it's truly deepened my relationship with him. And then also, I feel like this year, my husband and I have been apart more than we've been together, which I feel like is typical. But at the beginning of the year, he was gone for like a few months in dry dock, and we would see each other here and there. And then he had like a big training block also this year. So he wasn't really deployed that much. He just had a lot of TDY trips and training. So he was gone for probably over 6 months. But because of that, I got to get closer with the Lord. I had more time to deepen my relationship with the Lord. And I feel like this is year I tried to use that time to get closer to God. I feel like the first year of marriage in 2023, I feel like I would just fill my time with things that were not glorifying God, just like trying to pass the time watching YouTube, you know, all the stuff we use to pass our time, reading books, stuff like that, but not anything to feed me spiritually. But I feel like this year I've kind of transferred that to listening to a lot of podcasts. I listened to a lot of podcasts this year. Reading the Bible more, reading spiritual books. So I feel like that has been pivotal too in my relationship with God. And then also this year was Erin and I, both of our first PCS, other than leaving the academy and going to our first units. This is like our first real PCS, and it has been pretty seamless transition. I feel like it's always hard changing jobs. I feel like it takes me like a year to get comfortable and start enjoying my job. That's how I felt about my last unit. And so transitions are hard. I feel like I've been at this unit for like 6 months maybe, and I definitely have been enjoying it, but there still are hurdles that come with changing jobs and changing people. Like I still miss some of my friends back in Texas, and so that has been a transition. But I feel like since I moved to Virginia, it's been kind of like a spiritual revival in a sense. I don't know what it is, but also it probably has to do with my injury, which I'll talk about later. Like I've just really gotten serious about reading the Bible and really serious about my relationship with the Lord since moving here. And part of that is like a great church and great community, but I think God has just stripped things from my life that I have used as a crutch, and so really all I've had left is the Bible and God, because he took away like running from me, and then also like Matt left a lot during this time we've been in Virginia, and so I've just had a lot of time to deepen my relationship with the Lord, which has been hard because I've had to grieve losing some things, but it's also been a great blessing at the same time. So yeah, that has been hard because I ran a marathon in January, so that's like Another recap of the year, which was so fun. It was my second one. The first one was rough, but the second one, I really, really enjoyed it. It was so much fun training for it. The race day was so much fun. I just had like such a great time. And then since then, I have like been on and off injuries, and I haven't really been able to get back into like running full time. Like I would run for a couple weeks and then I would like get injured. And so that's just been my year with like fitness and finding different ways to work out. And it has been hard mentally, but I have, like I said, gotten so much more time to be with the Lord, and God has kind of turned into my number one priority. I feel like before it was like running and fitness was my number one priority. And since being injured, I feel like it's kind of changed, which has been hard, but I think God was using it for good. So I know we talked about that in an earlier podcast episode, but it was part of my year. So I'll get into more of my injury as I talk about my New Year goals. So, like I said, this past year, I feel like I got serious about the Bible, and this year I really want to get serious about prayer, like setting aside intentional time to pray, being intentional about praying before meals, and like praying consistently throughout the day. That's something I really want to put into practice, because I pray, but I really want to make it more of an intentional, like sit down conversation with God, no distractions, putting my phone away. And something I got to help me this year, I asked for Christmas, and I got it early because me and my husband just give each other our gifts early. We don't wait. We're traveling for Christmas, so we're not like pack them all and bring them all. So we're just like, I bought this for you. And it's the Hosanna Revival 5-year prayer journal. So it has the date each day and then 5 sections, and it's pretty short, but you're supposed to pray and then summarize and keep track of what you prayed about. So that has been allowing me to have a more intentional prayer time. So I'm going to use that source and really try to get intentional about prayer. And something else, I want to do the Bible recap again, because there's also probably so much I missed in reading the whole Bible in a year. So I feel like the more I read it, the more I'm going to pick up and the more I'm going to understand. And I know a lot of people will read through the whole Bible each year and they just rave about it. So I want to read through that again to even get more knowledge and just keep building on my Bible knowledge. And then also, Erin and I talked about this on last week's episode. I want to practice the Sabbath each week. So I want to do like no social media on Sunday, no working out and no work, and kind of see what that looks like for me and my family. But I just want to be more intentional about practicing that, because I feel like I do kind of a half Sabbath. I don't have like super strict rules. Yeah. Like I go to church and I try to rest, but then I'm also like getting stuff done, and I'm also on social media and on YouTube during the day. So I want to have a full Sabbath. So that's a goal of mine. And then also we talked about fasting a couple episodes ago, and I want to make that a more intentional practice. So I don't really have like a huge number goal because I don't exactly know what my year looks like, but I would love to do like a few 24-hour fasts and maybe like 172 one and see if I can work my way up to that. So that's another goal of mine, to make that more of a spiritual discipline and learn more about it and just get better at practicing that. And then I also want to watch my input this year. My sister-in-law, she has in her car, she has like a sticker that says like watch your input. So like be careful about what you're listening to. So I want to be more intentional and not listen to like music that doesn't glorify God and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure like what I'm feeding my spirit is of the Lord and not of the world. So I don't have like strict rules on that. I just like want to be more intentional about what I'm feeding my mind, because we're intentional about what we're eating. We like try to eat healthy and make sure we don't have any of these bad ingredients, but like what about what we're listening to? I also want to be mindful of that. Along with food, I want to be better about like looking at my ingredients and making sure I'm feeding myself healthy food. And then fitness wise this year, I haven't talked about this yet, but I'm getting a surgery in January for my hip. I know I talked about it probably early on in this new series where Erin and I have been talking on the podcast. I have a surgery in January, so that has been a lot mentally to process, but I feel like I've gotten to a good place about it. So it's like, okay, I can talk about it. So my year looks different for fitness. I don't really know how it's going to be after surgery. I really just want to get healthy this year and get my body strong and hopefully be able to run again. I think it's a 4 to 6 month recovery. So maybe by like the end of the year, I can be running again consistently and have that be a part of my life again. And then another thing I want to do, Erin talked about the 21-day sugar fast in January. I want to try doing that at the beginning of the year because I have the biggest sweet tooth, especially with like sugary drinks. So I just like want to try to do that and be disciplined because I am so bad about eating sugar. And so I just want to do kind of a reset at the beginning of the year, work on some discipline and do the study that Erin was talking about. So that is my goal for the new year basically. And we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we'll see how this year goes. I feel like it's going to my like theme. I don't really have a theme for the year, but like I feel like this year is going to be kind of the year of slowing down, and the year of rest is kind of like what I'm leaning into, especially with the surgery and the recovery. I'm really just trying to slow down and be at rest with the Lord, and like Sabbath and fasting and all that. One other thing I wanted to mention that's a goal for this year is growing the podcast. I really want to get this out to the people that need it, the military wives, the military women who need a faith resource that gets what they're going through. I just like want this to reach them, and I would love to grow the podcast. So Erin and I are trying to like post on social media and like promote it and stuff, which has been a learning transition. I don't really love like posting, but I'm like, okay, I need to do this because I want to promote the podcast. And in order to get like a podcast out, you have to do social media marketing. So we're trying to get more intentional about that and really grow the podcast because I love doing this. It's been so fun the past few weeks where we've just gotten to sit down and chat, and I just want to keep doing this. And I would love for more people to get their hands on this, and I would love to get better at it too, like improve on speaking, improve on talking about the Bible. Like that's a goal of mine. I've already seen so much growth in like the 2 months we've been filming consistently. So I hope this next year that I will be able to improve in my speaking abilities as well. So yeah, those are my goals for the year. Erin, how was your year, and what goals do you have going into 2025, which is crazy to say?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a big year for our family. My son was born in January, and so our whole year has been marked by introducing a baby to the mix. And I think Liz has said the word multiple times as she has talked. But one thing that I was thinking about for 2025 that I really want to incorporate is intentionality. She's used the word intentional so many times when it comes to being in the Bible, or with food, or with the podcast, with work. Like everything that we do, we want it to be intentional. And another Josiah Queen song, like we've talked about Josiah Queen a lot, but I don't want to lose my soul chasing after things that don't lead me straight to you. Like that is just simply where I'm at right now. And motherhood has helped do that for me, in the sense that like Liz talked about the things that have been kind of stripped away from her this year, and in a positive way. I feel like this year my time was stripped away from me, in the best way possible, because before, I don't, like, looking back at last year, 2023, I don't know what I was doing with all my time. Like after work, before work, like what was I doing? Like I had so much time. I just don't know what I was doing with it. And now having a baby, I don't know. God uses motherhood so intentionally, and he has a specific plan for it. And part of it, I think, is just showing us that our lives are better when we're using them to serve others, and our lives are more fulfilling when we take the light off of ourselves. So that's what this year's really taught me, is just that my time is not my own, but that is a beautiful thing. But anyway, with that limited time, I have to be intentional with the time that I do have. And if I'm spending that scrolling or watching a TV show, or I don't know, a whole variety of things that are just not fruitful, then I don't have time for the things that are really important to me. And so that was when I was thinking about like a word for the year for 2025. I was originally thinking about intentionality, but Liz, it's cool that you at the end of your goals were talking about just slowing down. And I love how the Lord, like Liz and I haven't talked about our goals and everything yet, but it's just cool how it lines up, because I was thinking like, okay, yeah, my word for the year is going to be intentionality. But the thing about intentionality is that it's often paired with action. So when you think about intentionality, it's like, okay, I'm on every drive, I want to make sure I'm listening to podcasts and books and learning as much as I can. And I want to like always be doing research, and always, I don't know, it kind of in my head started to become something that required more. But really the heart behind it is simplicity. And so that's actually going to be my word for 2025, is simplicity, because it includes the aspects of intentionality that are good, that I want to incorporate, but it also, just like Liz is saying, it's going to help us slow down, which God doesn't need us to be doing a billion different things in order to glorify him. He just wants us to be faithful with the little that we have, and he'll grow that if it's his will. So yeah, simplicity. Let's see, more of a 2024 recap. Like Liz said, I feel like it's been a year of actually less. Like there hasn't actually been all that much except for like the biggest thing of like having a baby. Like we haven't traveled much. Like we haven't done anything super grand, but we've just done, I think, the small things better. I also just want to have a solid why for the things that I do. One thing I'm guilty of is just like locking on to certain topics or trends even, just because like people on Instagram or people that I'm listening to podcast wise like are talking about them. So I don't want to just hop on trends because they're trends. I want to have a solid why and be intentional about every area in my life. Recently I like took a piece of paper and a pencil and I just like wrote down from morning to night all of the things that I consume. So again, this is very on par with what Liz was saying.
It's crazy.
But I was writing down things that I consume in my body. So literally going through this, it sounds really crazy and crunchy when I say this, but I've been going through like, okay, when I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth. So what kind of toothpaste am I using? Like I've gone through that specifically, and I want to do that because it's those little things that we do every day that actually have a big impact on our lives. And so I've been thinking about food, vitamins. I'm trying to pinpoint what time I do spend scrolling and how I can use that purposefully, because like Liz is saying, we want to grow this podcast, we want to do social media well, but it's so easy to get caught up in just like scrolling. So I want to pinpoint the time that I'm doing that and have a better outline for my day so that I don't waste my time. But then back to the products, I want to make sure that my food is real food, which sounds like something that is simple to do, but it really is not all that easy.
It's very hard.
When the grocery store is not full of real food, unless you're just on the perimeter. But even then, there's like, I don't know, there's so much to look into when it comes to meat and milk and all this stuff. So I don't want to overcomplicate it, but I do want to be intentional with products and food. As things run out in our house, I'm just going to look at them and say, okay, is this something that we can make ourselves at home? Or is this something that we should find a better alternative for? Like, I just want to take it that simply. Like Liz, I'm going to do the Bible recap again this year. In 2024, I think I'd read it more so to understand the full story and the historical context, because as a believer and as someone who's doing ministry, that's super important. And now that I have some of those bigger pieces connected, I want to go back through and do it again, more so just for getting to know the Lord and being in the Word every day, because that's what this plan has really helped me do. Is even if I don't necessarily go super deep into every single line and look at what the Hebrew words mean and all this stuff, like I just want to get to know the Lord, and I want to look forward to that time every day. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Word. I also want to lean more into what my local church is doing, because sometimes what we read in my local Bible study, the first time I read it is like at the study, like when they read it as a group. And so I want to try to dive more into those relationships. And so in order to do that, I want to be more intentional about reading the things that they're going over so we can have more fruitful conversations. I also want to do the sugar fast at the beginning of the year. It was really good for me when I did it a few summers ago, and it just kind of helps get a clean slate going into the year. So I want to do that, and the devotional that goes along with it, because again, it's about replacing, it's not just about what you get rid of, it's about what you put in its place. And so I want to put the Lord in that place and seek after Him and not sugar. I also don't want to do social media on the weekends. That's the time that I end up like scrolling the most, which is the time that I want to be spending with my family. And since I am working during the week, I want to really devote that time to being intentional with my son. He's just getting to the age, he's almost 1, which is crazy. This year's flown by, but with him being almost 1, he's definitely developing an attitude, not necessarily like negatively, like his personality is coming out, and he can be a little feisty sometimes, which I don't know who he gets that from. But but sometimes at like mealtime, he'll just like he's not saying words yet, but he'll just like squawk, and he'll just like, it's very clear that he's like give me more food, woman, or like I don't know, like sometimes he'll go to drop his food like off the side of his chair, and he'll like look at Nolan and just like And like, what you gonna do about it, Dad? Like, and so I don't know, things like that. We want to be more intentional with training and discipline, and do it in the way that glorifies the Lord and leads Weston to Jesus, because it's so easy to just apply a quick fix when it comes to kids and to just fix the immediate problem, but we want to be focused on the heart and long-term obedience to his parents, and eventually that'll translate to obedience to the Lord. So we really want to be intentional about training him, and I also want to read more resources on that, listen to more on that, because that is my primary role right now as a mother, and so I can't not include that in my goals for 2025. Let's see, one thing that I read in the Word this week that kind of ties into this. I was in Corinthians, and Paul here is talking to the church in Corinth, and he says, "But by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace towards me was not in vain. On the contrary, I worked harder than any of them," talking about the apostles, "though it was not I, but the grace of God that is with me." And so he's talking about himself and giving glory to the Lord here. He says, "But by the grace of God, I am what I am." So that's like what I want my heart posture to be like. It's by the grace of God that I'm here right now doing this podcast. It's by the grace of God that I am Weston's mom. It's by the grace of God that I'm married to a wonderful man and in the job that I am. And then Paul says, "And his grace towards me was not in vain." So I want to recognize the grace that I am where I am because of the grace of Jesus. And then I don't want that grace to be in vain. And so I want to take the position, the resources, the people that God has given me and steward them well. My body, my family, my work. I want to simplify it, go back to the basics, and just the only thing that we have to do when we wake up every day is the will of God. Like, I create a to-do list for myself, but I just want those things on that to-do list to be open-handed and for the will of God and not for making my life easier. So that's my heart posture going into 2025. I'm excited for the new year. It's always good to have a reset, and I too am really excited about this podcast. When Liz first brought up the idea of doing it every week, I was a little intimidated, simply because, again, time is limited these days, but it's been something that has been fruitful for my own life. So even if God isn't using it in yours, he's using it in ours.
I know.
And so thank you if you are listening for being a part of it. And I think we've said that this focus group of Christian military women is very niche, and it's something that's hard to search on Spotify if you're just looking for a podcast like Christian military women. Like, it's a hard thing to find, and it's very niche. And so we are focused on intentionally trying to get it out to the groups that need it, and doing that through Instagram, through social media. We're trying to learn how to do it well. So thanks for being a part of the journey. This year we're just taking away the things that don't bring us closer to God and putting more things in place that do. Simply enough. So yeah, this week also we've been in the last week of the Seeing Jesus in Isaiah's Prophecy devotional by Planting Roots on the Bible app. And this week the devotional was talking about Jesus as the Prince of Peace, and I've reflected on that a lot. Liz, do you have reflections from Jesus as Prince of Peace?
Yes, I feel like this was just what I needed when I was talking about my surgery. I was like pretty anxious, and I feel like this study like met me in my anxiousness and really helped me through that. So it was talking about how peace, the definition of it is freedom from disturbance and tranquility. And it talked about how Jesus promises to be all of those things to those who believe in him. So I was like, I believe in Jesus. Like, I can have this peace. I can have this freedom from disturbance. And it was talking about what storm in your life do you need to have calmed. And for me, that is like the health issues that I'm dealing with. Like, I'm 24. Why on earth am I getting hip surgery? Like, how did this happen? It is crazy to me. Even thinking back to like when I was going to get the MRI, I felt like God prepared me for the diagnosis I was going to get. I knew my labrum, which is the cartilage in my hip, was torn, and I knew that it was bad enough to need surgery because I just knew I didn't want to deal with this pain forever. Like, some days it's okay, and then some days it's awful. And since I'm so young, I was like, I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life. And this issue is probably going to lead to arthritis and a hip replacement in the future. So it's better to like get to the root of the problem now, so maybe I can prevent those issues. So I was just going, I've been dealing with it a lot, like going back and forth on if surgery really is the best option. And I literally prayed, I don't know if this bad, people are like, you're crazy. I prayed that God would like increase the pain so that I would like feel peace about surgery and that I would know this is like the decision he wants me to make. And last week my hip was so bad. This week it's better. But so I was like, okay, yeah, I do need this. So I don't know if it's crazy that I prayed that, but it gave me peace praying that prayer. And I felt God just, yeah, like he prepared me for this. And I knew kind of this was going to happen even when I didn't even have my diagnosis. I just knew. But the study was talking about how in the storm, there is something called the eye of the storm, and that the eye of the storm is the most peaceful place to be, and how it's marked with sunny skies and no winds, while around you there are gusts and damaging winds that threaten to destroy anything along its path. And it talked about how Jesus promises to give us peace like found in that eye of the storm. And so I feel like even though everything is kind of crazy around me right now, like I have peace in the eye of the storm because I know Jesus and I know I'm in his hands. And so that has helped me a lot, because it has been a lot of anxiety on me, like going back and forth on like what decision to make. And like I've never had surgery other than my wisdom teeth surgery, and so that freaks me out because anything medical freaks me out. And so like even thinking about the surgery makes me like super anxious. The last thing I'll bring up is the verse that it talked about in the study, because I was kind of going on a tangent, but it's John 14:27, and it says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." So I'm just trying to cling to that verse and remain in the eye of the storm in the next like a few months as I'm going through this, and rely on God, and yeah, know that he's with me even though it is going to be hard. The recovery is going to be hard. And I'm just trying to rely on God because it's a lot to think about. But I have him on my side. So I know I'm going to be okay. But yeah, I just took you guys through the whole whirlwind of all my emotions and like what I've been feeling. But the study really did help and came at like the perfect time. So I was thankful for that.
Yeah, I really am glad that part of what you're going to focus on for 2025 is prayer. And it's really encouraging and convicting for me because I'm not very good at prayer. But what you're talking about, even with asking God to increase your pain, it seems silly to talk about, but the root of that is just that you, back to the word intentional, want to be intentional with your prayers, because when we pray specific things like that and then we do see them answered, we can give glory to God, which is the whole point. The whole point is not that you felt pain and then you knew to get your surgery. Like, that's a great byproduct. But the point is that in that you recognize God's presence and are able to act in according with his will to glorify him. So I know that it's a whirlwind of emotions, but keep praying, because God is glorified, and through sharing what God is doing, he's glorified even more. So thank you for sharing and being transparent and honest and bringing us along on the journey, because the health world can be scary. I know the health world is scary, and having the hypothyroidism diagnosis or whatever this year too. Mm-hmm. With our first baby, we weren't necessarily trying, and so I didn't have to go through the whirlwind of like, okay, am I gonna get pregnant? Like, are we going to face infertility like so many women do? And now with this year, like, we've always said that we wanted our kids close in age, and now like I'm facing those worries and of not being able to get pregnant again and all these things when I don't know, like, why am I stressing about things that I don't know about and not trusting God with the body that he designed? Like, yes, things in this world have messed with it and made it not as ideally functional, but ultimately God is in control, and he dictates life, and he can heal, just like he has done throughout the entire Bible, like we've read about this year. So I just want to focus on him as Prince of Peace, and this is a perfect ending of 2024 theme, just of peace, and helps us go in to 2025 with the right mindset. The verse in this study that stuck out to me the most this week was John 16, and I've heard this verse so many times, but it's right before Jesus is going to the cross, and he's going to leave his disciples, and he says, "Behold, the hour is coming, indeed it has come, when you will be scattered, each to his own home, and will leave me alone. Yet I am not alone, for the Father is with me. I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world." So with whether it's health stuff, whether it's emotional hardship that you're walking through, we're all walking through something, even if it's not like even if it doesn't feel dramatic, everybody faces annoyances in their day-to-day life. Sometimes people on the road are annoying. Like, it could be little things. In this world, we do face tribulation, and things are not perfect because of sin and Satan. But we have something greater. We have Jesus. We have the fact that God, sent his son, Jesus, to die on the cross for our sins so that we can spend eternity with him in heaven. This is not our home. We have an everlasting home with the God of the universe waiting for us, and that can bring us peace here on earth for whatever that we're going through. So I hope that you guys had a good and fruitful 2024. If you reflect on it and it doesn't seem like the best year of your life, honestly, even better, because Jesus is ready to meet you right where you're at and bring you into the fold. We're ready to walk here alongside you into 2025. And yeah, we all have something greater to look forward to, even if it's not on this earth. So thank you all for joining us today. Liz, do you have anything else to wrap us up today?
Well, no, I was just going to say thank you for, your encouragement to me has been so amazing. And I've loved doing this podcast with you, but even just like today, I feel like I'm in therapy, just like chatting with you about all my problems. So just
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Thank you. No, it's good. No, it's good. And thank you for your wisdom and like your encouragement. And I look up to you so much as like a mother and a friend. So thank you so much for doing this and agreeing to do it every week. Me. Because I appreciate it. And it's crazy how similar our New Year's goals are, even though we didn't talk about them at all. So that was super fun. Even like some things I said that you said, oh yeah, those are things just given to me in the moment. Like I didn't prepare really for some of the things I said. So I don't know. God is just so good. And I pray that he continues to use this podcast in our lives to encourage us. And I pray that he could also use it in other people's lives to encourage them. So share it if you like it. And leave us a review.
Do all the things that, will help us out as a ministry. And we're all, on behalf of Planting Roots, wishing you a Merry, Happy Christmas and a wonderful New Year. And with that, I'm Erin.
And I'm Liz.
And we pray you stay deeply rooted.